All right, we are moving into the 2025 NFL offseason, and that means free agency is here. The legal tampering period begins Monday at noon Eastern, March 10th. So when we can finally see these free agents start negotiating deals, hammer things out. The new league year doesn't officially begin till Wednesday, but 2 days of legal tampering we're going to have. But I'm going to go through, give you my top 20 free agents heading into this offseason. Let's kick things off. Okay, first up, I'm going to ride with Aaron Rodgers. So Rodgers, 41 years old, heading into probably his final season in the NFL, had a pretty decent season, all things considered. Maybe a letdown for the Jets, but towards the back end of the year, Rodgers getting healthier off that Achilles injury, 3,800 yards, almost 3,900, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Maybe not what we were expecting from Rodgers, but still more than productive than a large chunk of quarterbacks in the NFL this past season. And guess what? It's a horrendous NFL draft class. It's not a very good free agent class at quarterback. Rodgers could come in, maybe stem the tide a little bit, maybe be the one-year guy to fill in. Or I don't know if he's going to be a Super Bowl push guy, but a team that's maybe a fringe playoff team gets a little bit of upgrade. So I like Rodgers here at 20. Okay, Joey Bosa just cut by the Los Angeles Chargers. He's going to be 30 heading into next season, but he has been injury prone pretty much his entire career. We know what the top end potential is for Bosa, but guys who are injury prone, once you get to 30, it really doesn't get much better. Had 5 sacks last year, 5 tackles for a loss, and 2 forced fumbles in only 14 games last year. Bosa's a guy that never really reached that upper echelon potential. Injuries have kind of bothered him, but I think he's worth a pickup for a team. Pass rushers are a critical part of being an elite NFL team, and Bosa's a guy that can produce at a very high level. Okay, how about running back Najee Harris from the Steelers? Going to be 27 next year, had 263 attempts, 1,043 yards, but has had 1,000 yards in every single season in the NFL. I don't necessarily think the downfall of Najee Harris, I think it's being overstated here. Pittsburgh's offensive line isn't great. The offensive scheme in general isn't very good. I think he's going to be an impact back for somebody. Still, only at 27, he's in the prime of his career. Had 6 touchdowns last year as well. So I think Najee Harris going to be a solid pickup now. It is a very good running back draft class. That could hurt his overall potential, but a team that needs a veteran, he's a good signing. Okay, pass rusher Hassan Reddick played in only 10 games last year due to a contract holdout. Didn't have a great season, 1 sack, 2 tackles for a loss, but in 2023, 11 sacks, 13 tackles for a loss when he was on the Eagles. Hassan Reddick is a top-tier pass rusher when he is healthy or when he's engaged. I don't know what his engagement level and focus is going to be. I think everybody just kind of went to this terrible Jets situation and it all blew up. So I think Reddick is a guy, another pass rusher, a very important position in the league. You take a risk on because unless he's got crazy contract demands, I think you can get him on a good short-term deal and be an impactful starter for your team. Okay, Carlton Davis, going to be 28 in the upcoming season. Had a pretty solid year. Now, ultimately, didn't finish the year, had a broken jaw, kind of hurt part of that Lions defense that just fell apart. But 2 interceptions, 11 pass breakups, and 2 tackles for a loss. Davis, a excellent man corner, really doing a good job at covering guys out there. And if you can't cover people in this league, you're going to really struggle. Another weird cornerback draft class as well. So I think there's some real value for a guy like Davis to be an impactful starter on your team. Okay, Amari Cooper. The downfall of Amari Cooper last year was kind of bizarre. He's going to be 31 heading into next season, had 44 catches and 547 yards. Did have 4 touchdowns, but was really a complete shell of himself in Buffalo after the trade from Cleveland. Really kind of disappeared at times, just nowhere near productive or the guy we thought Cooper was going to be. Now, he is on the wrong side of 30, but he's worth a risk. Amari Cooper's been an elite tier wide receiver for a long time in this league now. This could be the beginning of the end, but I think we're going to see another good season for him. You maybe don't rely on him as a number 1. You put him out there as a number 2, potentially even a number 3. Maybe have him work in the slot a little bit. Change things up for Amari Cooper. I still believe in Amari Cooper. I'm not going to bail on him yet. So Amari Cooper here. Okay, 14, Khalil Mack, probably a future Hall of Famer, 9 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pros. We know what an elite monster Khalil Mack was in this league. Now, that's on the backside, I think. is going to be 34 heading into this season, and truly his first free agent opportunity throughout his career. Did have 6 sacks and 6 tackles for a loss last year, but had a monster 2023, 17 sacks. Also had 2 forced fumbles this year. So Khalil Mack can still get after it. He is aging. Pass rushers do age, but in the right spot, the right fit for the right team, Khalil Mack can be an impact rotational pass rusher. I'm thinking Von Miller a few years ago, maybe Von Miller on the Rams. Just put him in there. Maybe he's not going to give you the consistency and the monster production, but in big spots, playoff games against good teams, he's going to win those one-on-one matchups. I still like Khalil Mack at the back end of his elite NFL career. Okay, Charvarius Ward, quarterback from formerly the San Francisco 49ers. He's going to be 29 next year. 12 games played this past season. Had a knee issue, also had some personal issues, missed some games for him, but 7 pass defenses and 54 tackles. A solid overall cornerback. Now, he does get beat sometimes, but in a very volatile cornerback free agent class and draft class, I like Charvarius Ward as a number 2 corner. Plug him in there. He's going to be a guy that makes plays for you. He's not the best cornerback in the world, but I think he's a really solid, impactful guy for teams. And you know what? It's a pretty decent free agent class at corner. So Charvarius Ward here at 13. Okay, Malcolm Kuntz from the Las Vegas Raiders, only 27 years old, did miss all of 2024 with an ACL injury, but was really strong in 2023. 8 sacks, 9 tackles for a loss, and 3 forced fumbles. You rarely see a top-tier pass rusher, or a young pass rusher, I should say, at this age coming out there. Very productive. Now did play next to Max Crosby on the other side, so that helps. A lot of teams are focusing on Crosby. He's going to get those one-on-one matchups. But again, at his age, still has the prime of his career in front of him. I think you pair him on another good pass rushing team or with another good pass rusher, he's going to be very productive for you guys. Tore his ACL right before the season, so he should be ready to go come out. Now, maybe it's a little bit slower. Maybe you got to work through some kinks. But again, pass rushers are a priority in this league. You have to be able to rush the passer. Look at our Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. So Kuntz here at a young age, coming off of a very productive start to his career, should be an interesting pickup for a lot of teams. Okay, Byron Murphy, Vikings cornerback, going to be 27 next year, was super productive in this Brian Flores defense. 6 interceptions, 14 pass breakups, and 6 tackles for a loss. Now, Murphy was a free agent just 2 years ago and has been very, very good with the Vikings so far. And look, Murphy probably not going to be one of your top tier outside cornerbacks. Didn't really grade well this year, does give up some passes, but if you put him in the slot, that's much more comfortable. Put him in that nickel position where he is in a defense. He's a really good tackler, can smoke out wide receiver screens with the best of them, and he's willing to put his nose down and make a play. Also has great ball skills. Again, 6 interceptions. He knows where to find the football. So Murphy here, one of your better corners in this free agent class. He's going to demand a good bit of money, but I think it might be worth it for some of those terrible secondaries in the league. Okay, cracking the top 10, Nick Bolton, linebacker from the Kansas City Chiefs, going to be just 25 years old next season. Had 106 tackles, 3 sacks, 11 tackles for a loss, an interception, and a forced fumble. Nick Bolton is one of my favorite players in the league. Now, linebacker is kind of an interesting position, maybe not the highest value position in the league, but man, Nick Bolton can make plays out there. He just has a nose for the football, an extremely smart linebacker. Steve Spagnuolo has raved about him. I like Nick Bolton. Put him in a defense. He can cover the pass relatively well. It's hard out there for these linebackers to cover some of these running backs and tight ends, but Bolton's awesome, and he's an excellent blitzer, can get after the quarterback, and he doesn't really miss tackles. So give me Nick Bolton here at number 10. I think he's an excellent and the best linebacker available in free agency. Okay, former Dolphin safety Javon Holland, my number 1 safety in this free agent class. He's going to be just 25 years old next season. 4 pass defense, 1 forced fumble, 62 tackles, and 2 tackles for a loss. A versatile guy in the back end. Doesn't look like Miami's going to be able to keep him. He's going to get a very big contract this offseason. He was excellent in the Brian Flores defense, drafted him out of Oregon in 2021. I think he's a very versatile player, can play all over the field, makes plays, and just has a nose for being in the right place at the right time. In, again, a weak free agency class at safety overall, and a weak draft for safeties Give me Javon Holland. Give me a lock back there in my secondary, my favorite safety in this free agent class. Okay, my favorite corner in this free agent class, DJ Reed. Now a little bit of a journeyman, has had a few stops along the way, most recently of the New York Jets, going to be 28 most of the season, 29 in November, but a very productive year playing across from Sauce Gardner, 11 pass breakups, 1 sack, and 4 tackles for a loss. The Jets kind of were all over the place last year, and it felt like he was the better corner on this Jets team. Sauce Gardner really wasn't very good last year, and Reed played and showed up each and every week. I like DJ Reed. He's going to get a really nice contract. He's shown he is a big-time player. He maybe is ready to take that step as your number one corner. Potentially you want to put another guy out there, but he accepted the challenges these past few seasons and played in a really good defense when he was coached by Robert Saleh. Put him with a smart head coach or smart defensive coordinator, and I think Reed's going to shine. My favorite corner in this free agent class this year. Okay, I'm all about the D-lines this year. Give me Jonathan Allen, just cut by the Washington Commanders. He's going to be 30 next year, 2-time Pro Bowler, only played 8 games this past season, did have a torn pec, made a comeback for their excellent, legendary playoff run by the Washington Commanders for that young team. Had 3 sacks, 19 tackles, and 7 quarterbacks hit. But he's been a very productive starter in this league for a long time. I think Allen's going to be good to go, plug and play right in the middle of that defense. And we see the impact of having these big interior defensive tackles that can not only stuff the run, but can get after the quarterback, create pressure up the middle. That's kind of the key to winning in this league right now. So Jonathan Allen, a very experienced guy, a well-rounded player all around. Now his contract might be a little too big for some people out there, but I love me a good, strong interior player. Give me Jonathan Allen here at number 7. Okay, more pass rusher love. Josh Sweat of your Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles doesn't look like he's coming back. Going to be 28 next year. Has a Pro Bowl, 8 sacks, 41 tackles, and 15 quarterback hits, and an excellent performance in the Super Bowl. And that's kind of a big thing here. You want players who show up in big games, and Sweat was one of them. A very productive pass rusher in a rotational defensive line. I'm not super worried about these defensive lines that rotate a lot of guys, because that's pretty much how every D-line plays these days, especially the good ones. So he's going to be your starter out there. You might have to rotate him a little bit to keep these high production numbers up. But man, oh man, excellent finish to the season. Great game in the Super Bowl. Josh Sweat, a very top tier pass rusher coming in at just 28 years old. The prime of his career, should get himself a fat contract this offseason. Okay, cracking the top 5, Davante Adams. Gonna be 32 years old next year, so he is up there for wide receivers, but had a pretty productive season last year with the Raiders for a little bit, then traded to the Jets. 85 receptions, over 1,000 yards receiving, and 8 touchdowns. Now, the question is, where is Adams going to play? It feels like he might be limiting himself to the West Coast, potentially reunite with Aaron Rodgers if it's not on the West. But Adams, I think, is going to age gracefully as a wide receiver. Going to be a Hall of Famer probably when it's all said and done. And at 32 years old, he is at the back end of his career for wide receivers, but still going to be productive. Maybe you can't rely on him to be that elite tier number 1 guy, but you put him in an offense, you have him as your number 2, potentially even a number 3 option on a good veteran deep team, and he is an excellent pickup for anybody out there. Now, Adams feels like he could be a little bit of a problem, can get unhappy with bad quarterback play, so I would prefer to him go to a team with a really strong quarterback presence, but that's easier said than done. But Davante Adams still a top 5 free agent in this class. Okay, my favorite defensive player for free agency, Milton Williams of your Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Another guy who had a monster game in the biggest spots. Going to be just 26 years old next year. 5 sacks, 24 tackles, 10 quarterback hits, 17 starts last year, in only 1 missed game in his entire career. So Milton Williams is a rotational piece. I'm not worried about it, but he's an impactful guy. He's consistent. He plays. He shows up each and every day, and that's big when you're talking about guys on the defensive line. We just saw his impact in a Super Bowl win for the Eagles. I think he's the best available defensive player in this free agent class. I love me an interior guy that can not only get after the quarterback, just create havoc, can help stop the run. Really big offseason for Milton Williams. I think he's going to get a massive payday when it's all said and done. Number 4 on my free agent board and my favorite defensive player available. Okay, a relatively weak offensive line free agent class, but Ronnie Staley at 31 years old is available. Now, I am a little bit concerned, like, why is Baltimore letting their left tackle walk? They do have some contract and cap issues, but played 17 games for the first time last year. Only played in 31 games from 2020 to 2023, so kind of not super reliable until last year. You do worry, is this like an Anthony Davis situation, a guy who played and then has always been hurt beforehand and now he's going to get hurt? But I think Stanley's going to be an elite left tackle pickup for anybody. I mean, a team like Kansas City, super desperate for a left tackle. The Patriots, Chicago, whoever needs offensive line, Stanley's going to be your best available option, especially in a very weak left tackle draft. There is no dude out there at left tackle in the NFL draft, so might be a little bit of a risk with the injury history, but Stanley's going to be able to block it up, lock it down on your left side, protect your quarterback at all costs. Give me Ronnie here in my top 3 and my favorite and only offensive lineman on my top 20. Okay, Chris Godwin, going to be 29 next year. My favorite receiver available since T. Higgins isn't on the market anymore. Only played 7 games last year, did have that dislocated ankle, but it seemed like he was going to make a push to potentially play if the Buccaneers made a playoff run, if they beat the Commanders. There was some real talk that he was going to play in the divisional round, definitely in the conference championship game if they got that far. But he really balled out last year as the primary lead receiver in this Buccaneers offense. Even with Mike Evans did go down with an injury and he played without him. No problem. 50 receptions, 576 yards, and 5 touchdowns last year. He was maybe the talk of the town, lighting the league up last year, and I love to see it. He's going to be your best available free agent wide receiver. He is going to make a mint this offseason. We've seen the payroll of wide receivers go through the roof, and there are a lot of playmaker, receiver, desperate teams in this free agent class, and there's a lot of those teams with a shit ton of money. So Chris Godwin, I think, can be your number 1 guy. Maybe not your elite number 1 guy, but he's a high-end number 1 guy. You get another good receiver with him. We saw like a Mike Evans, and it's an excellent combo. He's as deadly as can be. So Chris Godwin, my number 1 receiver here at number 2 on my top 20 list. Okay, and finally, the man, the myth, the legend, Sam the Man Darnold. Only 28 years old. You never see quarterbacks like this, or a quarterback who's put up any kind of production like this available at this age. Now, we know the story with Darnold, drafted high out of USC, kind of a bust, struggled, but he really found his stride last season with the Minnesota Vikings. 4,300 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and a 102.5 quarterback rating. Easily the best season of his career. Now, gonna leave a bad taste in your mouth with his final 2 game performances, but quarterback is king in this league, and it's a horrendous quarterback draft class. Really, Cam Ward's my only first-round quarterback on the board. Sam Darnold, probably your best quarterback option, especially if you're a team that maybe isn't ready to make a playoff run, doesn't have that young guy in place, but you desperately need stability at quarterback. Sam Darnold's gonna come in there, do what he did, especially with good offensive coaches. I don't think this is a flash in the pan. What he learned under Kevin O'Connell, we see this kind of development. A guy like Baker Mayfield, who went with Sean McVay, I don't think he's going to be Baker Mayfield. Obviously, he doesn't quite have that dog in him. But if you get him on a team like Las Vegas, maybe Indianapolis, maybe he fills that Anthony Richardson issue. Sam Darnold's going to make himself a lot of money. Was about to make himself an insane amount of money, but those final 2 games do leave a bad taste in your mouth. But quarterback is king in this league, so that's why Darnold tops my list as my number 1 free agent heading into this off season. But that's going to do it for us today. If you guys haven't already, drop a quick like on this video, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We got daily sports content for you guys. If you want to support the channel more, sign up for a channel membership. You get all sorts of access to cool and exclusive perks for our live streams, exclusive videos. Help support me, allows me to keep making this great content for you guys every single day. We are in March now. March Madness is right around the corner, as well as the NBA and NHL playoffs. So if you want to head on over to SeatGeek.com, check out one of your teams or games in person. Use code afterthereview for $20 off your first purchase. That's SeatGeek.com, code afterthereview for $20 off your first purchase. Again, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.